Alright, so what I'm going to do in this video is a basic mobility session in real time, so that way you guys can follow along with me. Just watch this video, listen to this video as you go through, and we'll hit most things somewhere from the waist down. Couple of things to note: I've set a timer on my watch, so every 30 seconds once I start it, it'll give me a little beep, give me a good time to change. Then the other thing is, I would normally have started out with some kind of rolling, whether it's a lacrosse ball or a foam roller or softball, something along those lines to help mobilize the tissue to get a little bit of a better stretch. So first thing, start the watch. So what we're going to start with is a good old-fashioned hamstring stretch. One easy hamstring stretch that I use is just a simple standing hamstring stretch, just like this. Now, a couple of things to notice. You want to have your leg that's propped up straight. So here, I'm getting a nice little stretch. I'll show you a higher position with my other leg. Now, in order to make this more, I can lean into that, making sure that my knee does not bend. The more I bend it, the more focus is going to be taken off of my hamstring. So here's one on a higher. Now you can see how my knee is starting to bend a little bit. So this might be a little bit too high. I'm going to leave it here though for the purpose of the video. Now, you guys might ask, why 30 seconds? Well, 30 seconds is a great kind of starting place if you're not used to doing a lot of mobility. If you get into too deep of a stretch for too long, sometimes you can start to develop some soreness. All right, 30 seconds is up again. All right, from here, what we're gonna do is grab a pillow. Because my knees are old, I'm gonna drop it down on the floor for a little cushion. Face away from my bench, right, our couch. Prop my foot like this, and then I'm going to drop down. So I'm in a lunge position with my knee down. My timer's about to start again, so I'll start the stretch with that. Now, 30 seconds, once again, this is a time frame that's a nice starting place, but I'd even recommend going up to a minute to 2 minutes, depending on your need for mobility and as well the amount of time that you have. Now for this stretch, what I'm doing is I'm trying to focus on pushing my hips forward, and I'm going to feel the stretch in my back leg hip flexor. So right now my right leg is back, so I'm going to feel that in my right hip flexor. Now there's actually two versions of this stretch that we're going to do. For this first version, there's my timer, switch it up. So my first version is I'm just hanging out in this position, just kind of letting my hips rock forward. In this, I can kind of pulse into it just a little bit, right? I can kind of lean front to back, side to side, and find some tight areas, right? That position is going to be where I'm kind of pushing in to, okay? All right, the next version we're going to do, I'm going to switch back to the other leg. I'm actually going to flex my core like I'm doing a plank or a hollow hold. That's going to focus all of the stretch into the psoas and into your higher hip flexor. From there, I'm going to try to squeeze that down leg glute and push my hips forward while maintaining this position. So if you noticed, when I flexed my core, my back got flat. So this is relaxed. Now you can see how that position changed. So you should be looking for that every time. All right, so tight core. Felt that stretch shift up, and then I'm going to push forward. Now, I spend more time typically in hip flexor stretch or in any stretch where my hips are being extended, right? So we spend all of our time seated, we spend all of our time kind of hanging out, not necessarily great positioning. So our hip flexors are going to tighten up a little bit more than everything on the posterior chain. All right, so from here, I'm going to have a seat on my couch, all right? I'm going to pick my leg up, I'm going to cross over, and then I'm going to lean into it, okay? So this stretch is going to hit mainly the lateral hip, all right? And it's going to hit mainly the glutes, all right? There's a couple of different options in order to help this stretch feel more. So right now I'm just kind of hitting the main part of the glute, right? The big chunk of meat. So we're going to switch up. So I can press down right here, or I can lean forward. So press down on your knee, right? Or lean forward. Now, if you cross your leg and your knee pops up like this, But we got to spend more and more time in this. Now, my desk chair is almost exactly the right height for me to sit and do this while I type. So that's an easy way to add in more and more and more mobility throughout your day. So while you're sitting on the couch, okay, come back to the couch in a second, all right? So once again, my other variation is bring the opposite shoulder to the knee. So think about bringing my right shoulder over to my left knee. What this is gonna do is focus the stretch more into that upper glute, where a lot of people actually call it their low back, okay? So while I'm sitting on the couch, I don't have to actually try to stretch, right? I can sit and I can lean forward, right? And still have good vision on the TV, right? I can still sit on the couch in the chair and read my book, right? I can play on my phone. All of those good things that we like to do, okay? Now, one thing that is definitely not done enough is actually sitting in a squat position. This is something, if you can only do one thing every day, this is definitely something that you want to add into it. So I'm going to stand up, I'm going to get my feet, I'm going to slide back so you can see me better. All right, so I'm going to put my feet, I like to go just a little bit wider than my normal squat depth, okay? From here, I'm going to make sure my knees are going out, and then I'm going to sit down into a squat, all right? So things that I'm doing here is I'm trying to work, I'm bringing my butt down and get my chest up, right? I might even take my hands and push together to drive my knees out, okay? So that was 30 seconds. I'm gonna change to the side. So, nice wide base, sit down into it, hands, and push. So as my hips scoop through, I'm able to get up into a more upright position. The more time you spend in this position, the easier it's going to be to get down into a squat, all right? So, spending a nice little time down here, kind of rocking back and forth, okay? From here, we can stretch our calf, all right? So, right here, I'm gonna prop up against my couch. Same thing, same implement that we've been using. I'm just grabbing here, make sure the couch doesn't slide, but I'm also thinking about pushing my hip forward in order to hit my calf. So, in this position, there's actually two ways we're gonna hit the same side. You notice my front knee is straight right now. When I turn my 30-second clock over, all I'm gonna do is simply bend the knee. The benefits of doing this are twofold. One, it's going to hit the second layer of musculature that's inside my lower leg on the back. But more importantly, especially for people that have trouble getting down into squats because of ankle mobility, is I'm actually hitting the ankle joint more. So as I'm sitting in this, I should feel that stretch deeper inside my leg, lower, as well as in the ankle. Not worried about how much I bend the knee, right? As you can see, it's not super bent. So once again, knee straight, push my hips to the couch. Just like this, and then in a minute, or 30 seconds really, I'm gonna bend my knee. All right, 30 seconds. So I'm gonna bend my knee. Now, if you notice, this ankle has a lot more range of motion than my other one. So what does that mean? Well, I should probably spend more time stretching my other ankle. Also, this would be a good time to add a band in to help with some of that joint distraction, to help get a deeper stretch, okay? Now, there are two ways to hit a groin. First way is gonna be standing with your legs split, which I'm gonna show you. And then I'm gonna show you the seated version, which is called a butterfly. So my favorite way to stand and stretch my groin is I'm gonna step my leg apart. I like to go hands on hips because it helps me to picture that motion that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna push my hips across. Now if you notice, it's not my torso lean that matters, right? It's that actual hip shift. Now I should feel this all down the inside of my thigh. I can play around with pushing back a little bit, with pushing forward. A big thing to remember with all stretches, all right, so now I'm gonna switch to the other side. A big thing to remember with all of these stretches is you don't want pain, right? If you ever feel pain, pinching, anything like that, you want to either lessen the stretch or just stop that stretch and find something that works better for you. Okay? So for the next stretch, the butterfly stretch, I'm actually going to demonstrate it up here on the couch, so that way you can see a little bit better. There's a couple of cues for this that people, in my opinion, don't necessarily use correctly. So, I'm gonna have a seat. I'm gonna put the bottoms of my feet together. Now, a lot of times you see people grab their feet and pull too. That's not my preferred way to do it. I actually want to grab my ankles, so that way I can use my use it as leverage to push down. So just like this. So I don't care how close your heels are to your hips, right? All you want to do is make sure that you're getting those knees pressed down so you feel that stretch in your groin, okay? So that's all we're gonna do in this mobility session. It looks like on my timer we're just over 10 minutes. So what we've done is hit a good mobility session in 15 minutes if you include the rolling. If throughout that you notice some kind of other tightness, what we'd actually want to do is go back now and let's readdress and hit those again.